In this video, we are going to be discussing how to recognize false light, what it is, what it looks like, and what you can do to just avoid it altogether. Please keep in mind that everything in this video is channeled through meditation, so if it resonates with you, then great, and if not, then that is totally fine. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. If you want to work with me, you can go to my website at catherineglassman.com, or you can email me at hello@catherineglassman.com. So first of all, what is false light? So false light in spirituality, when I was meditating to get a definition for it, the one word that came up was deception. So the way that I define false light is either a person or an entity or a being of some sort that presents itself as love, like a representative of unconditional love, but is really driven by ego. Now, this can manifest either intentionally or unintentionally. Sometimes there are just people or beings that develop spiritual gifts and start off with good intentions of helping people and spreading love, but as their gifts develop even stronger, there is a little bit of an inflation in their ego and greed might set in. So of course, with spirituality becoming a little bit more mainstream and there are more healers and spiritual teachers kind of coming out and wanting to help, it will be really important that we know how to discern from someone that is of the light and someone that is possibly false light. And when I say false light, especially in regards to like a human being, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil or they're out to get you. But it just means that they probably are not fully in a place that is representing unconditional love, unity, and of source frequency. That is a lot to expect from a human being. I mean, the one human being that I can really think of that lived on this planet that really was Jesus. So, I mean, it's going to be very hard to kind of fill those shoes. So this is just going to be more of how to recognize when someone's really not even close to being in that energy. Because if they're not even trying to be within that frequency, then they may be a little bit more inclined to take advantage of people. What are some examples of false light? Well, the first example, and probably the most obvious that I can give you, would be cult leaders. I'm talking like John of God, David Koresh, Jim Jones. These are very obvious because we are able to see what the consequences were of their choices and their actions. These people had a very large following and they had people that were very devout. So if you don't know who John of God is a man who lives in Brazil, who was a psychic medium, but also had the ability to do psychic surgeries. So psychic surgery is basically just a spiritual practice where they can literally perform on your body as if performing surgery and heal your physical body. There are many people who have seen him and who were healed by him. So obviously he's going to have a very large following and he's definitely going to have a lot of people that are completely devoted to him and his practices and his work. Because of course, if you go see John of God and you were blind and then all of a sudden he heals your eyesight, then you're going to think that he's probably the next Messiah and you're going to do everything to spread the word and to spread what he can do to other people who need the help. Well, it turns out that he was sexually assaulting a lot of women. And I think there have been like 600 women to come forward claiming that they were sexually assaulted by him. As of today, he is a convicted rapist. David Koresh was an American cult leader in Waco, Texas. David Koresh was a self-proclaimed prophet, and he had a lot of followers, but over the years, there were allegations of also sexual assault, including against children, apparently within the group. There were issues of fraud. That group came to a tragic end during a shootout with the ATF over weapons. And not only was David Koresh killed, but 20 others within the group, including at least 5 children. Then, of course, there's Jim Jones, who apparently was an actual ordained minister and developed a group with over 3,000 members initially in Indianapolis, I think, and then moved to California, and then eventually created Jonestown in South America, which was where there was a mass murder-suicide of over 900 people. So of course, with these cases, it's very obvious that they were false light, only because we now know of the terrible consequences that came from following a false prophet, basically. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they had devout followers that didn't really know that they were following false light. So what might false light look like today? This will probably look like an ungrounded spiritual teacher or healer. They'll typically take advantage of people who are vulnerable and will probably pursue clients a little bit more aggressively than just putting out a simple advertisement and letting people come to you instead. This will look like a lot of pressure. Maybe you'll have one session with them and all of a sudden you're getting text messages or emails asking for you to do another session. They may even go as far as to make false claims, like something terrible has happened to you in the past and now we need to unpack it and it's going to take at least 5 sessions at $200 a session, but we'll give you a discount of $50 off if you pay up front now. They may even be perpetually negative or constantly creating a distressing situation when really you just had a question about a job. They may even project their own issues onto you. You know, an ungrounded teacher or tarot reader might be going through some sort of situation in their own personal life, like infidelity. And then all of a sudden they give a reading and this person is also going through some sort of infidelity, strangely enough. False light can even come in the form of interdimensional beings. Typically, they'll project themselves as something that's a little bit more innocent and non-threatening, when really it's just more to kind of gain your trust so that you completely surrender to them. And once they've gained your trust, then they'll just start to take advantage of you and your vulnerabilities. I have a friend who was doing an investigation on this haunted area. And they said that there was a little girl that they kept seeing. Like everyone kept seeing a little girl. And so of course it was very non-threatening and they just wanted to investigate it. But the psychic medium that was there with them said to not engage with it because it is not the soul of a little girl. It is something that is much darker. Sometimes these beings will perform parlor tricks to kind of get you excited and engaged, when really they're just trying to draw you in so that they can get closer to you. So if you feel like you're connecting with this entity and it seems like so much fun, and all of a sudden you're able to levitate things and read people's minds, but it's only when you're around this particular energy, well, you might want to be a little careful with that. You know, the people that were working for John of God often talked about the entity, right? There was an entity that was helping him perform these miracles. And when I meditated on it, the information that I got about that was that, yes, there was an entity there. Yes, he actually was healing people, but it was more of a parlor trick to gain people's trust so that he can take advantage of them. And the energy of him taking advantage of other people, that energy was actually feeding the entity. So some of these interdimensional beings, they will siphon out your energy. And there is some energy that is a little bit more potent than others. And the energy of fear, or like a sexual energy, is an energy that they often feed off of. So how do you recognize false light? The best thing to do is to go with your gut. If you interact with a person or an energy once or twice, and there's just something that doesn't sit right with you, then you should definitely listen to that. Your soul, your intuition is always going to be right. And when you interact with something that might be a little threatening to your safety and your well-being, the feeling that you're gonna get is just of feeling uneasy, or it's just a little unsettling. You can't explain why, because they're probably saying all the right things. They're probably very charismatic and charming and funny, but there's just something that you just don't like. Don't ever feel bad about feeling that way. I used to feel terrible when I would get those feelings, like I was being judgmental or rude or stuck up or something, and then later on learn that they were actually not very good people. So don't feel bad. It's just your intuition protecting you. Another way to recognize it is if they keep pursuing you. The way any spiritual healing practice goes the client or the person that is seeking out the healing should be the one to pursue the teacher or the healer, not the other way around. This shows that there might be a different intention involved. There's obviously something that they want from you, which should definitely be a red flag. Just having a simple advertisement or, an email once a month just to kind of update you on specials or deals and things like that, that's one thing. That's just someone trying to develop their business. It's another if they just keep pursuing you and it's a little bit more aggressive, invasive, and intrusive. This goes for interdimensional beings as well. If they keep bothering you or keep showing up when you did not ask to speak to them, you did not ask to interact with them, then that is clearly an invasion of your boundaries, and that is a red flag. Another way to tell if you're dealing with false light is if they are arrogant, pretentious, or judgmental. Someone or something that is a true representative of source frequency or of God or of unconditional love really doesn't have to be arrogant or judgmental. There's just no point, because a truly secure person or being knows that there's nothing to judge and there's nothing to boast about. You're here to serve the collective and the whole so that we can get to a higher frequency, and that's it. So unless it's driven a little bit more by ego or by greed or vanity, then that would be the only reason for those traits to arise. Another way to recognize it is to see how you feel after interacting with this person or this energy. Do you feel uplifted and better and clearer? Or do you feel confused and anxious or worried? Now, there is always the possibility that you are just kind of in a place where you're a little bit more anxious or a little bit more worried. And so, most of the interactions that you have with just anybody and everyone leaves you just a little bit on the more anxious side. If that's the case, then that just might be a personal issue that needs to be healed. But really, for the most part, anytime you see a spiritual teacher or a healer, you should always feel uplifted and confident and encouraged in your own ability. Do you ever find yourself making excuses for their behavior, or find that there are other people that are just kind of speaking out against a particular person that you seem to really enjoy? For the most part, most people aren't going to speak negatively about someone or something without having a fairly good reason. So it might be worth looking into why these people feel that way. Do you feel seduced by them? I think this is a big one. Now, it's one thing to find a teacher or healer attractive, right? That's one thing. It's another to feel like you're being seduced by them. When you have an attraction or a crush on somebody, you're kind of giving energy to them, right? Like an admiration type of energy to them. And if they are a grounded spiritual teacher, then they will be able to recognize that and cut that energy, making sure that there are healthy boundaries that are being respected. If they are not so grounded, then they may start to take advantage of that energy that you're giving and then start to pull you in through seduction. I remember watching a spiritual teacher. She is very popular on YouTube, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I would watch her occasionally and find that some of her videos were very informative and pretty good. But then there would be times where I just felt like there was something else going on, something a little more devious. It was even in the way she would look at the camera. Like, she would have like a sexy look, and she just knew that she was very attractive. I don't know, there was just something there. So whatever, she would pop up on my feed every once in a while and I would entertain it, and then, some were good, some were bad, whatever, not a big deal. Then a documentary came out about her. And I watched the first episode and, it was good. Didn't make any judgments or conclusions or anything. It was just the first episode. That night, I had a dream about her. And my dream was of me falling in love with her. Now, I'm a heterosexual woman, okay? So I don't just have dreams about falling in love with women, but I dreamt that I fell in love with her. We became intimate, right? Which, again, is not me. And in this dream, she has like a boyfriend and she leaves with the boyfriend. And I'm left feeling so broken and empty. And then I wake up. that was a very vivid dream. Anytime I have a very vivid dream, it's usually a message. And I instantly knew that there was something darker about her. That's when I knew that she was using sexual energy to kind of pull her audience in. After having that dream, I decided to do some research on her. And when you know it, there are a lot of people that have come forward saying that there is a very sexual side to her. She knows that she can get people to become very physically attracted to her. And then eventually, people that are within her group start to kind of lose some of their freedoms and get disconnected from their families and their friends. So anytime you feel like you're being seduced by anything or anyone, then that is usually a pretty good indicator that that is of a darker energy. And honestly, if you think about the one fallen angel that we're all familiar with, Lucifer, the best way to describe Luciferian energy is seduction. It's Lucifer's job to pull you away from unity and from love, and to go more into a selfish, more ego-based nature. Another method that is used is intimidation. Now, you may feel intimidated by someone because of your own insecurities. That might be a thing. But if you know you're not really that insecure, but you can tell that they're just using certain language to kind of be a little bit more condescending, like they're know-it-alls, that they will always have the answers and you will never have the answers, then you'll definitely want to be careful with that. There is actually another group on YouTube, and they also had a documentary made about them, and it was about twin flames, so you probably know what I'm talking about, but I watched one of the series and it was so heartbreaking the way that they were treating some of these people. Just some of the verbiage that he would use, just very rude, very condescending, and they're charging thousands of dollars. You can't promise that you're going to make someone be with someone else, or that you're going to find you can't do that, because that is a very individualized and independent journey that that person is going to go through. Making promises that they're going to help people find their twin flame when you can't do that. There really was no focus on encouraging them to become whole within themselves. Then it turned into, them matchmaking with other people or other members in the group and encouraging them to transition to the opposite sex. Like, it was wild. But the one thing I did remember was somebody saying something about the way he looked at them. And this is a tactic used by some people, but it's basically to just stare at you in a way to create dominance over you. So when someone just stares at you and is just looking right into your eyes while you're talking or while they're talking, and if it goes on for a little too long, that can be a little intimidating. So again, it would just have to be more of a vibe that you're picking up from them, because you can tell a lot about someone and their intentions just by looking at their eyes. So what are we supposed to do moving forward if there are just so many people out there that are masquerading as representatives of source frequency and of God and unconditional love? What are we supposed to do? There's nothing wrong with interacting with these people or with these energies. And in fact, you are probably contracted to interact with some of them and be taken advantage of every once in a while, so that you can learn how to be a little bit more discerning and to have better boundaries for yourself. It's never wise to think that someone or something has all of the answers. And really, it will never be about the person or the entity. It will always be about the message. If you find that the message is beautiful and it's uplifting and encouraging and inspirational, then take that message and take the frequency of the message and take it as your own. But that doesn't mean that you have to take the teacher as your own. If you're a little confused or unsure about a person or an energy that you're working with, then you can always ask Source or God for help in discerning this type of energy. If you ask for a sign, then you're going to get it. If you're thinking about working with a spiritual teacher and you set up the appointment, but for some reason your credit card gets declined, then usually it means something. This might not always mean that they are false light. Maybe it just means that you don't resonate with their information and with their vibe. And that's okay too. If you're upfront with them and just say hey, I don't think this is a good fit for me, and if they just freely let you go, then that's a good sign. If they try to hold on to you for dear life, then that might be false light. At the end of the day, any person or any being that is a representative of the light is going to encourage you to gain your own sovereignty and be your own authentic self, and really encourage you to understand that you have the power within yourself to not only find all of the answers, but to also heal yourself. This life, this journey is about you. You coming into your own power. Everyone else, all of these other beings, they are here to assist you, but ultimately you are the one to have all of the answers. And if you're interacting with anything that does not just give you this energy of unconditional love, then that's fine. Just take everything that they have to say with a grain of salt, including this video. But even with a little salt added, I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.